Welcome to the Untold Story of Men, episode 8, as Blake would say, EP8. So my name is Daniel Bartlett. I'm the mindset coach, one of the hosts here of the Untold Story of Men podcast.
And I'm the co-host, Blake Minto, and we have a special guest, Kieran, and deals in family law.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome, man. It's nice to have you on. I was actually I was in Melbourne when Kieran reached out to me, watching from the sidelines about what we've been doing, and an old neighbour. Totally forgot what you did.
Yeah.
And then you reached out, and I was like, fuck, we need to get a family law lawyer on. So, honoured to have you on.
Most people don't know what I do because if they ask me what I do, I normally don't say family lawyer.
So, what would you say?
Uber driver. I've done that. That's not a lot. Most people, it either goes into, this is my story, or you're there's maybe not a lot of respect out there, compared to some
people
other
professions.
Yeah, that makes sense.
People have their own stories.
Yeah. Well, how long have you been doing it for?
Oh, been doing it for about 15 years.
Wow.
I think I've been a lawyer for maybe 12 years.
Yeah.
So it's a long process, obviously, to become a lawyer. But yeah, I've been a lawyer for about 12 years.
How old did you start? How old were you?
Geez, I've got a bit of a different path to becoming a lawyer as compared probably to most.
Yeah.
So I finished. So I went through high school in Sydney. Finished school in 2021. 2001.
I was going to say. Are we in the future?
The industry makes you age very quickly. So 2001, I finished school, and then had a bit of time overseas, sort of gap year thing.
Yeah.
And then instead of going straight through uni, I did it part time. I was never really into book study. Full-time uni just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
So I worked whilst I did part-time uni for 10 years, and then you do your graduate diploma, and then so I did HR. I did a lot of jobs, moving hay around, bricky's labourer for a bit. That lasted a day.
That's fine.
That's enough.
Just as hard as fucking scaffold.
I mean, it was good to get some other experience, and
of course.
But eventually settled into this field of family law after dabbling in different areas of law. Worked in Blacktown for a little while, and found my little niche. Which is where I am now.
What made you get into family law specifically?
Yeah, good question. I think that probably a couple of things. I think that I've got. I don't know whether the sort of, say, contract law or commercial law or areas of law where you're just looking at documents and drafting documents and you're not dealing as much with people, and you're dealing with people's problems, no doubt, but you're not dealing with people's emotions and people's stories. That wasn't as interesting for me as being able to take someone's problem, probably the most difficult time in their life, and walk them through a way out of that.
Yeah,
it's a really unique area of law where you're in a privileged position to be able to actually find out a lot more about someone's situation. It's not just the words on a page, like a contract dispute.
It becomes very intimate too, doesn't it?
Very intimate.
Yes.
And it can be years that you're actually dealing with the same person.
Yeah. And like you said, you're dealing with probably one of the most painful things they're going through in their life. Which can be a fucking huge weight on your shoulders too.
It can be, yeah. I mean, we do. There's not enough probably support or training, in these areas like vicarious trauma and the things that where lawyers, if they're too maybe enmeshed in their clients' stories, they can bear a lot of that trauma themselves. But the part of growing as a professional is learning how to handle that, deal with that, and it's you can get better outcomes for your clients when you're like a surgeon. You're not as worried about the person on the operating table dying. Obviously you would be, but you're more worried about the skills that you're bringing to the table. And you can still get a better outcome without something on the back of you. I'm not the one making a decision about a child or about the property someone else is. I'd lose more sleep if I knew that I didn't actually
You're just working for the best outcome.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If I've got the skills and the commitment to that, and I'm giving good advice, and and if either the client doesn't make the right calls or the judge doesn't make the right calls, it's sort of like that. That's how I can sleep at night.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So 15 years, 12 years. Tell us some of the, I guess, most craziest stories or the biggest impacts, you've heard of or you've had clients with.
Well, when we spoke, we were talking about mental health, and that's something that you're both passionate about. And men's mental health. There's a lot of suicides.
Yeah.
So something that we spoke about was, and I think it was a Bo on the podcast last week spoke about how he, in his role, I think he was, whether it was I think he was on a site and he had to go in to support people, and he found found his mate dead. So that it's a stressful time, family law, and I've had clients that have killed themselves. I know how stressful it is, and if people don't have the right advice, guidance, and supports, that can be the ultimate outcome. So it's good. It's good to have. You need good advice. You need good supports around you. Whether it's a lot of people they're losing their family. They're their most important thing to them. And they might lose their extended family. They might have mates that turn their back on them because of the circumstances and the separation. And that's where, as mates, as guys, I think you sort of you need to be there for them, and you need to also get them to get proper advice early, because otherwise you can be coming from a perspective of your own expectations and your own life. Your world, the way that you see your world, but you're coming up your belief system versus this legal system.
That's right.
And if you've lost all these other supports, and this belief system isn't reconciling with this legal system, it's pretty hopeless.
It becomes pretty overwhelming as well.
Massively.
Yeah.
Because I'm just going through my experiences with family court, and it seemed very unfair most of the time. However, I think I was pretty lucky. I got a pretty good outcome when I went to court. But in saying that, there's a lot of men out there that fucking aren't that lucky. So, how does the actual system work?
You've got the system covers a lot of different areas. It's very multidisciplinary. So you'd have family law stories that involve criminal law aspects. You've got property law aspects. You've got, the family law, which is, there's some legislation, some rules, some regulations that specifically address the main family law issues. You've got other issues like other areas of law. So, for example, if someone advances money to help someone buy a house. Normally, parents might in this day and age do that for their kids. There's no contract to work with. Then that can still be relevant to a family law claim, and that could be an equity type argument. So you've got all these different areas of law that can sort of be grouped together and called family law. So in terms of how does it work, it's really identifying, I think, what your issue is, which might be parenting or property, child support, and then working out what areas of law will allow you to get a remedy of sorts or some sort of outcome that you seek. So, I mean, the usual ones would be division of property and division of children. Unfortunately, you can't have, generally speaking, when people separate, they're usually not able to stay under the same roof and share the care of a child. And that's the whole point of separation. So you have to divide the time. And so they're your two main areas, probably division of property, division of time with a kid. How does it work? Properties. First of all, you've got some legislation, so the Family Law Act and the associated rules inform the court and the lawyers that are operating in that area of a sort of pathway that needs to be followed and the relevant principles that need to be followed. So it's complicated, and sometimes it doesn't, going back to that sort of the belief system versus the legal system, sometimes it doesn't seem to reconcile. So, I mean, generally speaking, property is, identifying what assets there are. Well, first of all, should there be a division? But if there should, what assets there are to divide, what the contributions to those assets have been, what each person's, future needs are. And there's some other things that would sort of inform how that works. And then parenting, I mean, it seems very simple. What's the best interest of the child or children? But that's a very sort of subjective question. And the judge's view on what the child's best interests will be different to each parent's view.
Yes, of course.
And so it really depends on the individual case. And, no two cases are the same. And you can't, AI is something that's spoken a lot about these days. You can't ask Grok or you can't ask someone to say, well, what's the outcome going to be in this situation? Because every case is very different. Every judge is very different. You'll have judges that might not have the life experience to. They might have lost a son or a daughter to a car accident or to drug use, and then they might apply their mind differently to a case that has those features. I'm not saying that there isn't a pathway that allows cases to be determined equitably, but you're dealing with very subjective matters.
Yeah. So it does come down to a lot of things in the system. The judge, what the opposition's saying, and then you've got that family law system, but then if there's harassment charges or intimidation charges or AVOs, that's a completely different system on its own, isn't it?
And that's right, but there's a lot of interaction. So I think was it Bo was talking about he went through the criminal system, and I think that he said something that he regretted was pleading guilty to a charge.
Yes.
And then he was saying that that really impacted his family law case. And that's because you sort of don't need to the elements of the offence that he's pleaded guilty to. In the family law, there's a different angle. So the family law system is looking at what's in the child's best interests. But to get to that point, you need to look at all these factual arguments. In his case, the other side wouldn't have to look too hard to prove these are the facts that he's already admitted to over there. So there is some echoes between these different systems, and that's why getting advice early. Like he wouldn't come to me to learn how to box, and if he got early advice and good advice about the impact that pleading guilty might have on his family law. And look, he might have pleaded guilty anyway because he might, that might have been the advice. And that might be relevant because he might just say, yep, I did these things. But people should know early on how things that they do might impact their family law case. Typical example is when there are allegations, I think it's, around 70% of family law cases have allegations usually against men. So the male is the perpetrator involving family violence, something like 70 or 80% of cases. And the court can't determine whether those allegations are, whether they're legitimate, whether they're proven until there's been a final hearing. Generally speaking. And so then the court needs to look at, well, what could the risk of harm be in parenting cases to this child? And if the court can't determine that until a final hearing, in most cases, because you need to cross-examine and have a look at all the evidence that's available, how does the court then avoid there being a risk of harm or mitigate the risk? And that's where you have things like supervised contact. And the number of blokes that I speak to say this is bullshit. This is just a crazy allegation that's come from nowhere. I've had a fantastic relationship with my wife or partner until we separated. And then this is all it's just a construction. It's just come from nowhere. And I'll be talking to them about, well, let's just get some runs on the board. Let's just get some supervised time. I'm not doing that. Why would I do that? I haven't done anything. It's an affront to, like, it doesn't seem really fair. Then you look at it from another perspective. That is, the court, in some cases, can't determine these allegations. There's two people saying different things until a final hearing. So you can do like an AVO without admissions. You're not admitting to the need to for the other person to have some protection from you. You're not admitting that, but you're saying, all right, I'll just stay away from you. It's fine, whatever.
Yeah.
Just, but you're not admitting to anything. You can do some things early on in the family law process which can help your case. Get some runs on the board, come back, get more time, and there's some systemic issues. It would be great if everyone could have a final hearing within months of filing and not miss out on huge swathes of time with their kid. But it's not always the way that it works. So
and is that period a long time when you're in court, court battles?
It can be.
Yeah.
Can be. It's better than it used to be.
Yeah, okay.
It used to be years. The longest case that I've been involved in, it's finished now, but it was 6 years.
Okay, wow.
And
6 years. Wow.
That was just property too.
Yeah,
so that was a tough one. Parenting cases, depending on the urgency, they can take generally no less than at least a year, usually 1 to 2 years.
Yeah, okay.
And that's because take for example what's normally a key element in a family law case, which is getting someone that has some expertise in the social science side of things and looking at what the children's or child's view is, and getting someone that's supposed to be skilled and objective, and usually they are. They've got special training and expertise to give a view and to do a report that's going to help the judge. Now, the significant delays in getting that report, it might be 6 months or 9 months waiting for that report to be done. So, if you have your early arguments about just getting some time, and then you have a wait like that, and then you have, updating evidence, and then you got to wait for a hearing date. It's still a long wait.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do to make to move it along quicker. In Bo's case, he was talking about supervised time. I think he said that he was doing it with Relationships Australia,
which was costing him $280 per time too. Yeah.
I mean, he could have, he might. I don't know his case, but I think he acknowledged that he might have been able to start that private stuff a little bit sooner. And if he did that, maybe a lawyer could have brought an application and said, "Hey, look, he's had a couple of here's some good reports. Here's a course that he's done. Here's some new evidence." And put a bit of pressure on the other side and just get in there and try and get things moving a bit quicker.
Yeah, but that's when financial stress comes onto it too.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
like, get a good lawyer. I mean, it's, you're looking at thousands and thousands of dollars as well on top of what you're already doing.
Yeah.
And for the average Joe, it's just not possible. So I think, Bo was saying that he did a lot of research online, so he didn't have to hire a lawyer because he wasn't in a financial position.
Yeah.
And I think that's the case for, I'm going to say, majority of the men that do go for a family court, because let's just say the average person has a house, they're living with their partner, they have a couple of kids, and then all of a sudden, bang, their relationship ends. It's like all of a sudden she has the power. She has all the power, and it's just so much. Like for my case, you need zero evidence now, that it seems, to even put an AVO on somebody or even to get them in the courts, because I know that the police are now just taking any accusation and then just throw them into court because they don't want the burden of determining whether they're not there should be an AVO or not, because if they say no, which has happened in the past, old mate goes and kills his partner, the burden goes on the police. So now the police are just going, you know what, you've got a problem, yeah, we'll sign an AVO, go to court. That's what happened in my case.
Yep. Same.
And then I go to court and I'm like, see the statement, and it's just literally words out of her mouth that has zero evidence, and I know she can't prove it because none of it fucking happened. And then you go to court, and then it's like, then you got to go, or what is it, plead? You got to go.
Yeah,
You plead,
Yeah.
and then you go
mature
back
court.
again,
Yeah.
and then it's the hearing, and then fucking, it went for 2 years,
Yeah.
mind you. So
Yeah.
lucky I didn't have kids with her because I wouldn't be able to go to family
Cost you a
court.
bombshell.
But it was my third fucking time, and I had bad experiences with family law lawyers in the past, and I sort of just learned from the lessons that I made in the past and went, okay, surely there's got to be some burden of proof in the system. So I had a little bit of faith back into the system. So I knew that what her statement wasn't, there was no truth to it. There was no evidence based on it. So I knew that I didn't need to hire a lawyer. All I needed to do was just walk in and represent myself because I knew the truth and I wouldn't get in any trouble. And exactly what I did.
How'd you go?
I won.
Yeah.
I won. So the intimidation, harassment charges got thrown out. The exact words out of the judge's mouth was to the prosecutor, "What do you want me to do here? Why is Mr. Bartlett in my courtroom? You've shown no evidence towards Mr. Bartlett.
Yeah.
What is he doing here?" And then she looked at me and goes, what'd she say? "I'm really glad you came in here, Mr. Bartlett, and represented yourself. You showed true courage, but today you're free to go." And all she said was, "Are you happy with just a lady AVO in place?" I said, "More than happy. See you later."
Yeah.
So you've done well, and some people wouldn't have been able to get through that.
Yeah, that's right.
Themselves.
Exactly. Yeah.
They would have.
But even being in that courtroom, knowing I did nothing wrong, the anxiety in my fucking body, because I was like, "Fuck! Like, what if?" It was one of the hardest things I had to go through on my own.
Yeah.
For the third time too, mind you, and I was like, "Fuck!" It was a game changer.
Yeah, that's what I struggled with the most thing was just being anxious all the time and just knowing that you have that court date. And when you know you're in the right, and it's just a stressful time. I remember I was just waking up and I literally couldn't go to work. I just wanted to hide underneath my covers, you know.
Yeah. And then because for me again, I felt like everyone was against me because you're like the perpetrator, right? So like, you even ring the police for advice. They don't want to know you. You're the perpetrator. Because I rang. This was another thing. When I got her statement and read it, I spoke to the police officer. I was like, "Why did you?" Because I've got my brother's in the police force, and I've got a mate who's in the police force. So I rang my mate straight away and said, "Fuck, man, I need some help. What's going on?" And the first thing I said to him is like, "Mate, how did you approve this?" And he's like, "Oh, look, mate, I didn't really want to give the ABO, but she was very persistent, so I just had to give it."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Fuck, like what the fuck?"
That's
and
right.
I even rang him after that, because I forgot I moved houses. I moved to Queensland and came back. I didn't have the court dates, and I rang the police station, asked for the constable in charge, and he gave me a date for when I had to be in court. And this, I don't know if it was a mistake on his end or if it was just trying to fucking get to me, but I'm going to choose to say it was a mistake. But he gave me the wrong fucking date.
Yeah.
And I was sitting at my dad's place. I just moved back home, starting again. And I was like, "Fuck, I've got a really bad feeling court's today," because he told me the day after. So I rang up the court. It's like, "Oh, when's Mr. Bartlett due in?" She's like, "Oh, you're due in at 9 a.m. today." It was 8:30. And I went, "Can you give a note to the judge? I'm on my way. I might be late." Yeah. And then usually you don't get in there till like after lunch. It's a fucking long ass wait. But no, I was the first one to get called.
Yeah, right.
I don't know, because they knew I wasn't there. They called me in, got there late. The judge did say, he goes, "Oh, I'm glad you did come in, but I've already made a ruling. And you're going to have to, these are the processes you're going to have to go through." So I had to go down, pay more money to get another hearing, which is exactly what I did because I wasn't losing this fucking battle. Went down there, paid the money, got the statement down, did that, went again, then won it. But like,
the time, the mental energy and the
energy,
the
the
cost of
fucking
if you go well.
stress, and mine was very mild. Like I wasn't going to jail for what I did, or what I didn't do, but what I got accused I did. But it was still the 2 years of that.
That's right.
And it's like, how? I guess my question to that is, how is there anything we can do, and how can we avoid that?
Well, you're talking about the weaponisation of the criminal justice system, and people can weaponise the family court system as well. I don't know the answer to that in this climate where you've got mainly men killing themselves due to mental health for mental due to poor mental health. You've got mainly women being killed by men, and then you've got the probably the appropriate reaction in our society is to really focus on that, and it is a real issue. You've got this net there to catch, the perpetrators, and no doubt that net's going to be catching people that are then subjected to that criminal system that shouldn't be, and that's got awful outcomes on their families, on the kids, on their employment.
That's right.
I don't know what the answer to that is, but there is definitely an increased reactivity I've seen from police and other relevant persons, whether it's reporting and I don't know whether that's right or wrong. I am still seeing a huge proportion of men in the family law system that have that are subject to allegations relating to family violence. And in like with Bo, in most of those cases the outcome ends up being a fairly normal parenting arrangement. It's just the volatile time at the end of a relationship when people can choose to weaponize certain aspects of the relationship. Most people, everyone has fights in their relationship.
Right. Absolutely.
It's just that people may have or choose to have a different recollection of those arguments afterwards, and I think you touched on this in the last podcast. There can be aspects of emotional abuse that impact men. On the man's side, there's the unfortunate thing is that men can lash out physically and violently, and one's probably more overt, one's probably more easy to identify, and it is something that needs to be addressed in society. I don't have the answer. I think that there's a net that catches people like you that are then facing an uphill battle to try to clear your name. Getting to the extent that you might be forced to spend a lot of money, get some good initial advice early. That's probably one thing I'd say from a good criminal lawyer or a good family lawyer. Talk to there are organisations out there that won't cost you money. So in the family law sphere, you've got the Family Advocacy Support Service, or FAS, and they've got a service that's specifically for men who are going through family violence issues, whether they're the alleged perpetrator or whether they're the victim. Men can call this line and they'll be linked up with other services, and they'll be talked through the process of what they're doing. You have community legal centres, you have resources out there. Where it can get dangerous is where you have supports that don't fully understand what you've been through, and it can become a crusade against the system. It's hard to beat the system because it is the system. You sort of need to know how to fight the battle, and you need to equip yourself with the knowledge and the skills to be able to get through it. And there are services. So get in touch with you guys, get in touch with the podcast, and I can share some of these resources. I'd be happy to have a chat with anyone that wants to. So there's lawyers out there that do things almost as a community service, because we can see the devastation that taking the wrong path can cause. But FAS, FASS, if you Google that's a good support. But there's no denying the fact that there can be some awful outcomes, both in men killing themselves, men becoming alienated from their kids, women being murdered. You've got a blight on society where conflict can just manifest itself in a way that is just devastating. And then you've just got a real blunt instrument. It's almost like a sledgehammer. The police coming in and intervening, or the family court, Federal Circuit Family Court of Australia, coming in and intervening. It's a sledgehammer coming in. We sort of need a scalpel you needed someone to actually come in and have a look at that at an early time and listen to what you had to say. And, if there's allegations, let's get you both in a witness box and we'll see what, as opposed to 2 years later,
Yeah.
you've been through all this stress and anxiety and you've got that outcome. How's that impacted everything else? It's a resource issue, like I think that, the government has done a lot and will continue to do a lot to increase there's been some recent changes, and the family law system's always evolving. But the wait times are less than what they used to be.
Yeah.
But we're still talking years.
Yeah.
That changes relationships. Supervised time for a year, that's going to change.
That's a lot of stress and a challenging more mentally, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like you said with the sledgehammer. It's like all these emotions come up. So all of a sudden your life's just been flipped upside down. All these emotions come up. You're getting backed into a corner, and then sooner or later you just don't think, and you lash out.
Yeah.
And then that lash out could be, like you said, fucking a false allegation, or a man murdering his partner, or other way around, or it could be something so significant that can just fully change your life forever. It's crazy, but like,
the guys that I've seen that have, they might have a release and they'll just go for a night out and get on the coke.
Yeah.
That's then going to be in their hair, in their hair follicle for the next 3-4 months.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there's, and then they might present to a lawyer and they won't say that because they don't know that might be irrelevant to the family law system.
That's
and
right.
Suddenly hair follicle test, they're on affidavit, they might, and this goes to one of your other questions, like how do you sort of, what's the consequence for lying and making up stories? Well, it might be unintentional. That guy's done an affidavit and he's forgot to mention
put that in.
And maybe he didn't need to, but maybe it is a relevant issue. Hair follicle test, that's picked up. That goes to his, whether or not he's a reliable witness, reliable father. It hasn't got the other person saying this guy's got a long-standing drug issue, and hair follicle test sort of seems to confirm that. Yet it might be not suggesting any illicit drugs are good, but it might just be a sort of a not an ongoing issue that might impact your parenting in a way that some drug abuse may, but that can become a real issue then, So it's good to get early advice and it's good to have the supports around you.
Yeah. What's so you said you've had a few cases where your clients have committed suicide. Is that, give me a percentage ballpark there. Is that high percentage or is it?
It's fairly low. It's only a limited number of cases that I've either been directly or indirectly involved in.
Yeah.
And that's probably because there'd be a lot of people out there that don't even have, maybe for financial reasons, they don't even have the resources or the strength to go down the path of seeking a remedy.
They're pushed into that corner.
Pushed in the corner, and they'll just disengage.
Yeah.
And then they're lonely and they're lost. And that's why, the initiatives that you guys are involved in, like this podcast, I think it helps to keep people engaged. And
absolutely.
And knowing that even though us lawyers work in a different world, we can be the interface or the interaction between someone's world and the legal system that could otherwise seem so foreign and so hopeless. And all it would take is for me to sit down with someone, or I would think most lawyers, that's what we're trained in, and say, look, I know this seems hopeless, but this is the plan. This is the strategy, and this is, and not setting sort of giving someone unrealistic hope or setting out unrealistic outcomes, but saying this is the plan and this is what you can expect to achieve. Do you have support, and aligning them with different people? That's the way to avoid that. Probably a very limited number of cases that sort of no one really sees coming. I mean, if people are sort of sliding down that sliding down that path, normally they're sort of picked up and they can get their mental health supports, whether it's psychology or psychiatry or psychiatric assistance, medication.
Would their mental health be used against them in court?
That's a great question. It can be, although I think a lot of judges and us lawyers know that. I mean, to some degree, everyone's got mental health issues.
100%.
So, what is what in parenting cases? How does that impact risk of harm issues? How does that mental health present as a risk to the child? People might have depressive symptoms. They might be bipolar. They might be, schizophrenic. Is it treated? Is it managed? I think getting a lot of the risk issues, the best approach is to get on the front foot and to these judges see it all. They see everything. So it's not about if you've got a history of drug or alcohol abuse, or if that's still an issue. Talk to someone about that. Talk to your lawyer about that, and work out how best to deal with that in a way that shows the court that that's not a risk of harm issue for the kid. And I don't think that as long as there's some comfort that somebody's getting the appropriate treatment, that's necessarily going to be used against them, because it all comes down to, are they a risk of harm? How many people take Ritalin for ADHD? It's like that's something that I don't think it would ordinarily impact risk of harm issues for a child. It's a form of treatment. Same goes with depressive medication. It all comes back to what is the risk, and what is the risk of things becoming manifest, and that's where treatment and aligning yourself with the right people comes in. But you do see some awful cases. It really lays bare the highs and lows of human existence. People do go through a lot of health issues, and I've had cases where people have tried to kill themselves, jump off high buildings, and survive, and then post surviving, then there's an argument about the child. So you might have a paraplegic who's in hospital whilst there's a custody dispute going on, and that person might be, it's people can get in some really, really awful situations.
And how does that affect you?
Yeah.
Because you're a lawyer, but you're also a father. You're also a human being.
Yeah.
Like, how does that affect you? Getting that phone call, having clients, like, you're going to have to be quite well trained in yourself not to bring that stuff home with you. And
I know that a lot of lawyers do have substance abuse and mental health issues. You get a lot of alcoholics, you get a lot of drug abuse. Thankfully, I'm supported by a really, really, really good team. So I've had a lot of good mentors. I've got a lot of really good colleagues. So we've got a great culture. So I think that's the same in any work environment.
Surrounding yourself with the right people.
Absolutely. The Newcastle, Parramatta, Sydney, registries. Generally speaking, that the profession is a good profession. We do have good people that look at beyond. It's not about making money. It's not about, at least for most of us, it's about being able to help people through. I mean, if I didn't look at my job if I didn't actually believe that I was getting up to go to work to help people through a really difficult time in their life, and I was doing it for money, I wouldn't be able to do my job. And I think that's probably that's probably one of the reasons I can deal with it. I've got a good team. I've got good mentors, and I don't see it as I see it as a way for me to help people, as opposed to a way for me to make money or
making money is just the benefit of helping.
Yeah.
Right. That's the same with coaching and all the other stuff.
That's
It's
it.
like money for me is just a tool for me to help more people.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's all it
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good way of putting it. And I think that if you're surrounded by good people and you've got the right perspective and you've got the right outlook, then all this, the grief and the terrible situations that people get in, it's part of it is, well, that's not my situation, but I can actually do something to help these people. And I think that creates a bit of a barrier. I mean, there are lawyers that, and I don't think it's helpful. I mean, some people want a champion, and us lawyers, you want someone to go into battle for you.
Yeah.
You're paying a lot of money.
Yeah.
You want someone that can go in there aggressively.
Yeah.
And someone that when you get that nasty letter, you're right back, this is outrageous for these reasons. You're not thinking about the best thing for the child. You're doing this, you're doing that.
Yeah.
And that's a really personal way of interacting with another lawyer. And that enmeshment can sort of not be helpful in some cases because I don't think it's looked at very kindly when a judge reads that. I don't think it's helpful. But secondly, I don't think it's a way to problem solve because, like, at the end of the day, it's the judge making the decision.
That's right.
Not the other lawyer.
Exactly.
So I often say I don't like to litigate through letters. I got a huge letter the other day and I said, "Thank you, noted." That's going to really piss them off. But they've just paid, $500 to write this great letter.
Right.
It was all emotion. It was this beautiful case that says that lawyers are not the postman for the vitriol of their clients. Lawyers are not the postman for the vitriol of their clients. We're not. That's right. We're actually there not to be a mouthpiece for aggression. We're there to actually, to be the interface between this legal system and people's belief systems or their own story. And if we can connect that so that people know how to get their outcome, it's like one of the things that I did is I actually had a time where I thought, it goes back to your question, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with people's misery anymore.
Yeah.
And I decided to quit law. I was probably doing it for 5 or 6 years by then and become a teacher. So I went and did my diploma of education, and I started teaching. I actually went back to my old high school, which was the same teachers that would throw apples at back in the day. I'd be sitting in their staff room. It was just so. But it got me, thinking about the privileged position I'm in, where I was teaching legal studies and business studies, and I'd say to the kids, if you can learn the rules of the world that we're living in, it's sort of like the Matrix, the end of that first one where Neo sort of is in the corridor and he sort of sees all the code and he sees where sees all the little ones and the zeros. He sort of flexes and the walls go like this. Like if you can see that system and not just see anger and see the vitriol and see a lawyer that's, that's a good letter because he told them to get fucked, But if you can actually see that the structures behind that and how the court determines what's in the child's best interest and how, if there's allegations of, drug use, how maybe you're just even going and getting your own hair follicle test might actually really help your case. If you can know these little secrets and you can see that world, you will get a better outcome.
Really good advice.
That's
love that.
Picking up all those little good things.
Snippets,
Well, it's like, I like how you use the system because it's kind of what I preach in the coaching. It's like stop being in the body and focusing on all your thoughts that control you. Step out of yourself.
Yes.
Look at all the things in your life and what you can control and what you can't. Because the one thing you can't control is yourself, right? And you're going to be observant and have awareness of your thoughts, which is going to control your emotions. And then everything's vibrations and everything's frequency, everything's energy. So therefore, where your focus goes, your energy flows. If you're going to be focusing on the worst outcome, you're going to produce worse outcomes.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's literally how you fucking manipulate the system in your life. So it's
Yeah.
great that you can go in. All right, I'm going to court. Okay, this is what I need to do. Leave all emotions aside and just be in that. Okay, this is how it works. This is going. I need advice. I need advice here. So it's really good. I like
And
that.
hitting the things that actually matter. It's not going into, I'd imagine a work site with the wrong tools. You know, like you could.
Or a boxer with a shit coach.
Yeah.
That's true. Yeah.
You can keep landing those blows, but unless you know how to actually punch, or if if you're using the wrong tool, you're not going to put together whatever you're doing. It's you need the right tools for the job.
Right.
And look, it's not perfect. There's not enough. Things take a long time to get anywhere. Often you are on the back foot. You're sort of fighting an uphill battle, but there is hope and there is a way to do it. And you can really accelerate that if you get the right advice, you've got the right tools, you've got the right attitude, you've got the right supports. And I think that's, like the communities the community that you guys have built. It's a perfect vehicle for that.
Yeah.
People can get in touch with you. And, I'm part of that community, so people can then get in touch with me. And you share these stories and this experience with all your brothers, and then you find ways to deal with the things that aren't so good in that system. Like whether it's, I don't know, mindfulness, ice baths, whatever it is. There's ways to focus on and move forward where you need to, whilst being able to not internalize, but be able to actually deal with the things that are an issue without it becoming this egotistical, vengeance.
I think that's what it does come to as well. A lot of the times it's like, oh, I know I can hurt him through this way, or I can hurt her by bringing this up. And it does kind of come like a fucking battle against each other instead of going, well, fuck, look at the kids. Kind of thing, into the system.
That's who gets hurt the most, the children in the long run.
Yeah.
And in your experience, and with two fit, healthy parents, has the court given giving the children to the one parent?
Yeah, it happens all the time, but I often, not all the time, it happens. I see the worst. When I say the worst, there's a number of ways to get through that system.
Yep.
One is to not engage with it. You don't need to actually have a formal agreement. Most of the stuff we're talking about is parenting. Not normally you'd probably need a formal agreement in a proper form when it comes to property, because you're actually dividing legal assets. And, if you want to transfer a house to someone, there's some things that need to happen, or otherwise you might be paying stamp duty. And, but when it comes to parenting, if parents can have a somewhat amicable co-parenting relationship, even if it's a somewhat, a parallel parenting relationship, we're not really engaging with each other, but you're still able to parallel parent kids.
Yeah.
You might not need a formal agreement.
Yeah.
If you do, then you've got options like a parenting plan. You can go to Relationships Australia, or there's other providers that can help do that. And you might not need a lawyer.
Yeah.
They'll go through that with you and can do up a little document. When you see a lawyer, it's normally with parenting. It's because things are getting a little bit bad.
Yeah.
And you can't manage some of the allegations that are coming through, or you just can't engage and you can't interact. And a lot of those should resolve either at mediation or after each parent's got advice, or even, look, therapy is a really powerful thing, because these nasty letters, it's not going to change the heart and the mind of often the parent or parents that need to see things differently, because the whole time that the kid's in the other household, there's no fly on the wall monitoring what's going on there.
Yeah.
So if they, let's say she's getting an angry letter from a lawyer, maybe the kid's going to be hearing a little bit more about how much of a dick dad is.
Yeah.
It's not going to solve. Therapy is a powerful thing. You got some really, really good therapists out there that it's not couples counselling. Whether it's for each parent individually, or you could have sessions with both parents, or whether it's for the kids. I think a lot of that can be helpful to change a parent's perspective on how to approach a parenting relationship. If none of that sort of works and you go to court, that's generally where we sort of come in, and I see the more difficult cases. And so I probably don't see, and I don't see the vast majority of cases where people are able to sort stuff out themselves and it's amicable. So of those really difficult cases that I see, you do get cases where there are real risk issues.
Yeah.
You know, cases where one parent, is in and out of jail for really violent offences. You know, where I think in the last podcast, Bo was talking about, coming home to find another man in the house, and it's can be
It was the neighbor. It was the neighbor.
That's right.
Yeah, neighbor.
Feeling of jealousy, rage, even.
Well, that's what happened with me. So mediation, because I feel like, because you did say if you're getting the phone call, then you at least know things are starting to get bad.
Yep.
So I had to go through mediation first, which I think most people would, wouldn't they, before they go to court? Go, righto, go so you can sort your shit out.
Cases,
compulsory. So that was pretty much what the court said to us straight up, mediation. And it was a Wednesday and it was my turn to have him afternoon. And when I rang to say I'm coming to pick him up, it was like, no, we're taking him out for a family's day. So when I went around to her place, her boyfriend was there. And then we got into a scuffle. So then, because I went there by myself, he threw the first punch. I went straight to the police station afterwards and told them what happened. But because I was by myself and then he came in afterwards with marks under his eye, I'm the one that got done because I had no witnesses or nothing like that. Yeah. So then what I guess I'm getting at is the mediation, though, it's like a fucking handshake agreement, isn't it, really? It's got no actual backing to it, which is going to lead me into the next question I want to ask. So then I had to go fight those charges into criminal court before I could even go back to family court. Yeah. Which the relationship lasted fucking as much as an antibiotics fucking course. So he didn't turn up to court. So then that assault charge got dropped, but me going there was trespassing and intimidation. So I got charged with those. Yeah. But then when you do go to court, family court, and the judge goes, righto, you can have him every second weekend. That's the court order. Bang. When she breaks that or doesn't go along the court order, why is there no repercussions on her? And why is it not, I guess, law? Then?
There is. The experience might be different. I haven't brought a lot of contravention applications recently. So a contravention application is where you've got final parenting orders and someone breaches an order. And there is actually a remedy there that's a little bit more like a criminal charge, where if you've got laws that say you can't murder people, and if you murder someone, then you've got to answer for it. You go in there, and there's some elements that might be ticked off. Do you know, is the person dead? Did you cause that person? So there's elements that are ticked off, and someone enters a plea. Yes, I agree that I've done this, and this, or I don't agree that I've done this. So that's your criminal law approach to things. Once you've got final parenting orders, if there's a breach of those orders or an alleged breach, then you can file a contravention application. That normally doesn't see a revisiting of the entire family law proceedings, but any lawyer wouldn't approach that lightly because time, money, and it's quite technical.
Okay.
So, for example, if you have orders that aren't properly drafted, final parenting orders that aren't properly drafted, you file a contravention application, the other parent's brought to court, and they sort of have to enter a plea of sorts. Do you agree that you've breached these orders? And if the orders aren't drafted in the proper way, they might say, well, no, I didn't, because that order doesn't make sense. So to answer your question, there could be technical reasons why there's no consequence, and that might rest with the lawyer or the way that the lawyer's structured the orders.
So if she doesn't,
or there might be a reasonable excuse argument, and so that's why some lawyers might not be able to give you there's a lot of things there, but there is a remedy. It used to take a long time to go through the court to contravene someone. It used to take ages. but things have changed a little bit. Now there's a special list for contraventions where if you file a contravention application in a very short period of time, you can get back before a registrar. The registrar will be saying, why did you not facilitate this? But then you've got other issues, if the child's, old enough to really just vote with their feet, then he's a registrar, even though parenting orders are really technically, well, they do apply until the child's 18. If a child's just decided of their own volition, or at least to vote with their feet and just not go to see one parent and they spend time with the other parent, often a registrar is not going to be willing to, or a judge isn't going to be willing to say, well, I'm going to force this 15, 16, 17-year-old to go to the other parent. So there's imperfect remedies. There are ways to hold people to account. People have been jailed for breaching parenting orders.
Have they?
Yeah.
So, because I do know a couple of people, and recently I spoke to a mate that I haven't seen in ages. I knew he went through his divorce, but he's on his third time going through family court. She just keeps breaking the orders, and it really shook me because I was like, how can that be the case if she's breaking the orders? Like, it really blew my mind. So I want to give you a scenario. Let's just say Bob, he's been through the family court system. And let's just say he got every second weekend, and his partner, let's just say his kids are, I don't know, 10 and 12. His partner is then going, no, you're not seeing your kids. From that moment that I'm not sticking to the court order, even though he's got court order in place, where would Bob need to go from there?
Yeah. In some cases, you'd have to go back to mediation, depending on how far out from we are from those orders being made before either trying to go back to court or going down the contravention path. But normally it's quite a high threshold, and there's been recent changes that have to some extent encoded this threshold, which there has to be a significant change in circumstances to be able to go back to court. So orders are final. It doesn't stop people from filing. You got your final orders. If mum was, in that case, if mum was saying, I'm not going to facilitate time, one would expect mum to be the one going back to court to vary the time, and mum saying, there has been a significant change. He's on the gear, or he's with a violent partner, or so if she doesn't get in first to say to the court there's been a significant change, even if she does, I'd be bringing a contravention application saying there's orders that were final, that've been made, and they're final until they're otherwise varied. That person should be going to court and saying this person's breached the orders. And look, they might get a slap on the wrist, but then if they do it again, it might be more serious. You can be sent to jail. You can have bonds similar to in the criminal system. There are tools there. It's just that it might be that the final orders, there's a technical way out of them, or there might be a true change in circumstances, which means the court has to revisit it. It's a bit of a minefield, and again, it's about getting advice and getting it early. It might just take a letter to the other side where you would be quite aggressive and you'd be saying, court orders have been made. It's in the children's best interest for them to have the certainty and the continuity that those orders provide, and you've breached them. And we're putting you on notice that unless you facilitate time and make up time and things go back to normal, we're going to be filing a contravention. And expect that to be before a registrar, with that person having to answer for whatever they've done within months. Now, that sort of process wasn't available a year ago.
Right, because I haven't heard that before, and I've got a client at the moment, and he hasn't seen his kids in over 2 years, I think it is, and there was court orders in place, and she's moved to Queensland. And he's just given up because he doesn't want to spend another 30, 40 grand in court. So, what advice would you give to that person?
So that process, contraventions have been available, but the timeline is it can be a lot quicker now
Right.
because they've got a special list for it. For that person, it's hard to give any specific advice. But again, going back to my earlier point, if you have something happen to you, get advice, get it early, because sometimes by not doing something, it, it can just create a situation where it's then really hard if you leave it 6 months or a year before doing something. It can be really hard to then go to court and say, well, hey, she's breached the orders. It's like, well, why didn't you do something about it a year ago? It's and I know that can be a little bit unfair.
I think that's getting stuck in your own head, though, isn't it? Really, at the end of the day, like
it's easy.
It's easy to give up.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to go back and do it all again, because it's like, fuck, I've got to go through all that pain again, where it's just like it's easy enough to give up. I understand that, but like,
yeah, it's hard.
I keep using his name, but Bo said it properly last week. He goes, just don't give up, just keep going, keep going. And I think that's what.
And it might be a different. See, the whole move thing. It's almost like the if you get in there quick and there's final orders that the properly drafted, they might provide for the school for the kid to go to, or the amount of time, and she's not facilitating that time. I would usually think that he would have much better prospects of success in getting a quick interim order. No doubt there'd be a fight, but in order to bring to facilitate the ongoing arrangements that would see the child stay in that area, if he got in there early, because otherwise it's sort of like the arguments relating to a dislocation to his new circumstances. That's what's in the child's best interest. Well, if they're settled somewhere else, it's hard, but it's about getting in early, and if you've got the protection or the benefit of orders that have already been made, and something's changing, see a lawyer early. Or otherwise, time can be very unfair.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But yeah, the cases where just going back to that earlier point, the cases where the really bad cases where a parent's sort of locked out from seeing their kid potentially forever. They're the ones that are probably obvious. You got the sexual abuse type cases where people are found to be unacceptable risks. That might be
drug abuse, or whatever.
Pedophile, drug abuse.
Yeah.
But then you've got people that have been in unfortunate situations, and I think that people can learn and people can move on. But the ones that I've seen that end up, with recognition time, which is 3-4 times a year they get to see their kid, or no time. It's where the court cannot escape concluding that this person will be an ongoing risk.
Yeah.
And cases that I've had is, like that example of, finding another bloke in the home that your kid's in. People see red. I've had a case where a guy was, in breach of his bail conditions. He just went back to the mother's home, found someone in there, I think putting blinds up, and then broke mum's leg, snapped her leg, back off to jail. Comes back out of jail and then he was kidnapped and abducted. Like, he was part of this world that represented in itself.
Yeah, that's right.
To the child. And I think that ultimately in that type of case, if people are shown that they don't have the capacity to change, and this is where you do look at people's past, and I think is it NLP, neuro linguistic?
Yep.
So the idea behind that is to change people's patterns of thinking, isn't it?
Yeah, I change their thought patterns, limiting beliefs. Absolutely.
And you would see that. And I think this is something that you recently posted. People's beliefs and the way that they live their lives, that they can be stuck in this awful cycle.
Yeah.
and we see that. We see cycles of violence where people are actually, terribly violent to their intimate partners, and that involves an interaction with the police. And you can then get the records. We can subpoena, all the records, and you see these patterns. But that can change. And if it changes, you're not going to always be judged, and the family courts aren't going to judge you on all of what you've done in the past, unless there's some confidence that you're not going to change in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people become victims of their patterns.
Yeah, that's right.
Why does it always happen to me? What am I doing? Like, why does it always happen? It's the victim mentality of their own patterns. But when you get to that point in life where you've had enough, you're like, fuck, I'm sick of living my life like this. That's the start of you changing that pattern.
Yeah.
And it all comes from having observation and awareness.
So it's not just talking to lawyers early, it's talking to people like you guys to identify self-destructive behaviour and to change the way that people approach that, because we're all, we've all got our own demons. It's just that some of those demons, unfortunately, impact our parenting decisions.
Yep. And it also comes down to picking the right partner as well.
Yeah.
We spoke about this in the red flag episode. Like, how many patterns are we seeing and we're ignoring? And then you have kids with this person, and you get a house, and the next thing you know, she's doing the things she said she would never do, that she did to her ex or that. And it's like, fuck, you chose that. It's just why it's really important to choose the right woman.
Yeah.
It's the second biggest investment you'll ever make.
It's and it can be something where people might be better off not being together. If a kid's going to see they're be in this environment, this hostile environment where, they're the people that kid loves the most, haven't got any love for each other, then maybe that's not going to be a good thing for that kid. But by the same token, if the kid sees, if everything they love about themselves is the sum of what they see in each of their parents, then, if either of the parents is being critical of the other parent, that child's all they're hearing is that, they hate another part of themselves, and it's really confusing. So a lot of it's about shielding, the child from that conflict, which can be incredibly hard to do, because you
don't think you can do it in that environment.
Yeah.
Which is why we said, in previous podcasts, it's really fucking critical you work on yourself and be able to manage yourself in a way where you're not affecting your kids, because the kids are going to grow up and then they're going to start dating and they're just going to mimic what they grew up in. It's exactly what I did. I've just mimicked what I thought love was. I thought love was arguing. I thought love was over-pleasing. I thought love was getting manipulated. That's what I thought love was, because that's what I grew up in. It's the only environment I fucking knew. But it's only when you start, oh, fuck, okay, I'm not happy with this life. I'm sure there's a better life out there for me. All right, let's take this way. Let's step this way. Oh, fuck, yeah, you can do this. What? I can communicate and not get yelled at. I can do this and not get judged. I can do this and not get manipulated. Oh, shit. And then that opens up your world and you lean into that world a bit more. But then sometimes that world that's you've known for so long can, like, oh, you get back in it. And, you might get angry. You're like, oh, fuck, I don't like that. That's the old me. Okay, cool. I'm going to change that.
Yeah. It's that's a whole other world, isn't it?
It is.
That's what I think, that's, you need to have, I mean, looking at these cases, you need to have, a brotherhood and people that can provide you with support, but, and also be alert to the fact that we all might need some rewiring and taking on a legal system that might not be consistent with our own belief system. That there might be some rewiring needed. There might be some mistakes and there might be some injustices, and that's because it's a legal system, not a justice system. And then being able to sort of deal with that in a way that doesn't further impact your case in a negative way, because there is a lot of injustice, no doubt. There's that net that we were talking about. It might catch you and and it might not be there for you, but you might be caught up in this world where you have to argue, try to prove your innocence when you know that you're innocent, and there's got to be ways to be able to deal with that, or otherwise you'll end up a statistic potentially.
Yeah.
It's also knowing not to get tangled up in the net and realizing you've got a knife in your pocket and you can cut your way out as well. I think because that third time when I told you, I was like, I've had enough. I'm fucking just going to smash this, and that's it. It's the last fucking time I'm stepping in a courtroom. I don't belong in here.
Yeah.
Where it's easy just to get tangled in that net and then keep getting tangled in that net and tangled again and again. And it's like, I've got a big mission ahead of me, which I'm hoping I'll reach, a 10-year vision where, to be like blunt, fucking you don't have a job. I'd love to see a society where family law lawyers are struggling to find clients.
I say that. I wish I didn't have a job. I wish I was out of work.
I really do believe that can come into fruition, but that starts with getting men to be strong within themselves, so then the women can thrive within themselves, and then the huge benefit of that is the kids are going to thrive. And then when kids thrive and have safety, they grow up to be better fucking humans, and then we're leaving better humans for this planet instead of leaving a better planet for the humans. So in a short version of my mission, that's what it is. It's a fucking big one, but all I need to do is impact and have an intimate impact of 1,000 people, and then the domino effect of that could work quite well. So in 10 years' time, when we touch base and you go, fuck man, I had to leave my job because I couldn't get any clients.
I'll be your Uber driver.
I'll be fucking sweet. I'll be fucking happy. Happy as fucking Larry.
Oh, that's awesome. And then if people within our networks, and if you have groups like this, and those people can offer, the knowledge that they're bringing from their worlds and their life experience, and as I said, I'll be on call if anyone wanted to chat to me about their experience or any questions about what they're going through. Just get in touch with you guys.
Where can people find you?
Well, through the podcast, through you guys. Cool. I work for a firm called Matthews Folbig. Yep. We've got an office in Newcastle, an office in Parramatta. But yeah, I mean, happily, if it's reaching out through you guys, you can pass my details on, or you can look me up through Matthews Folbig. But it's about being able to, and of course there'd be no obligation or no expectation of anything except for me being able to maybe point people in the right direction initially. I'd be more than happy to do that.
Excellent.
And I think I'm not alone. There'd be a lot of people in your in your brotherhood and in your groups of people that you're dealing with that can also. I mean, that's the whole strength of having a community, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And so just on that, I kind of want to get a big picture of exactly like someone yourself that's watching and going, fuck, like that's me. So as you're saying, get early advice from a family law lawyer. And then me and Blake's advice would be work on yourself. So let's just say, for example, you have just gone through a breakup, bang, there's an AVO in place. And then there's kids involved. You've had to move out. What I really want to emphasize is don't fall into the net and get tangled up. Don't let yourself get tangled into depression and anxiety and then find alcohol and drugs and weed and all that stuff, which is really fucking easy to do. Take that as a fucking huge sign for you to then take a step forward and then change your life in all aspects. So then start working on yourself, get fucking advice from a family law lawyer, someone like Kieran, and then go through the proper processes. Again, I understand it's easy to fucking hurl abuse and do this and do that to the ex because you're feeling like she's using the kids as a weapon. Even if she may be, you have to be the bigger fucking person. And I know it's hard to do that, but you have to be the bigger person. Step aside out of that and look back into the system. Look outside of that. Take control of yourself again, and just you got to go through the process. By the sounds of it, there's no way around this system. You have to go fucking through it. And yes, the system is flawed in some ways. Fucking, I can shout for that. I'm sure you can maybe shout for that, Blake. It is flawed in some ways, but it is a system that you can't just go around. So you've got to go through it. And I think the best guidance, like you said, you can't. Mike Tyson wouldn't have been Mike Tyson without a fucking good coach in his corner. You know, like it's really important to have that support behind you. So yeah, find a good lawyer, find a good brotherhood or a community to back you up, to help you through that. Because when you do get through that, whether how long it takes, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, yes, it's a long time, but that 3 years time, you're going to be a better person. You're going to have a better relationship with your kids. You're going to be able to find a fucking healthy relationship. You're going to be much better off than falling down the trap into the tangled net 3 years time. Then you're still worse off. You're still drinking. You're still doing all that shit. So just use that time. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say. Is just use that time.
Amen. Yeah. See the matrix that's out there. See those structures. See those systems, and work on yourself so that you can actually interact with that in a better way, more productive way, and get a better outcome.
And get out of the shame too. Like I had a lot of shame going when I got accused of certain things, and like especially with my son's mother. Like I just felt like a piece of shit going to court and sitting in that courtroom like I'm a fucking criminal, and had all this shame. Just get out of that shame. At the end of the day, you're a human being. You make mistakes. Just fucking, pull yourself together. I know it's hard again, but pull yourself together and just go through it. Go through it. You're going through it for a reason. And when you do go through it, you fucking come out a lot stronger. A lot fucking stronger.
Self-growth there.
Self-growth, huge. On the other side of pains, growth, 100%. So if you are going through anything that was spoken through, please reach out to myself, reach out to Blake, reach out to Kieran, reach out to us to reach out to Kieran. Again, we can more than happy to help you. We'll leave the Telegram group in the description. Any more last words, bro?
Can I just do my lawyer thing? So anything that I've said today is probably more my own views than that of my employer, and it's general advice, not specific advice. And look, I had to be that lawyer, so I had to.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fine. We get it.
No, I appreciate the platform to be able to speak to you guys and to your community. So
thanks for coming on. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
I've enjoyed it. Cheers.
Thanks, Kieran. Thank you.
One more thing is we've had a win, and I always tell you to celebrate our wins. So our brother here, fucking Blake, has got on a card. Tell the people.
On the Jael Bateo card with Matchroom and Tasman Fighters on May the 15th, I believe it is, up in Queensland. Yeah.
Nice, bro.
Yeah, I'm pumped.
Looking for sponsors. You want to sponsor this legend for the fight? Fuck man, super keen to see on that card.
Ripping.
Good card too.
Good card, yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah,
awesome.
I was about to say something about I better not say it. About another promotion.
All right. Thank you guys for watching episode 8.
See ya.